All right, what's up, you cool cats and kittens? Today we're going to talk about sidechain compression. It's one of my favorite effects out there in electronic music. Sidechain compression is very useful because what it does is it gives your song a really nice pumping feel to it. It makes it a little bit more danceable. And more so, what it does is it will take two frequencies that might be competing otherwise. So maybe your kick drum or your bass, and it makes it to where they clash a little bit less. So, nevertheless, I'm a huge fan of it. And this tutorial really is for someone who wants to add it to their song. And yeah, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen real quick to show you possibly one of the most commonly used examples for sidechain compression. But this is Benny Benassi's Satisfaction. And listen really closely to the song and listen to the song after the kick drum comes in. Yeah, so that's sidechain compression, basically where there'll be a little bit more of a pump feel to whatever instrument you're adding it to. In this case, it's the bass, and it kind of rolls in with the kick drum. All right, so just to show you all really quickly how to integrate sidechain compression, let's just take this example here. I have added a really quick kick drum, just a 4 to the floor situation. I'm running Logic right now, but you can do this with whatever DAW you're using. In my case, I use Logic. This is just a quick drum beat that I've programmed with Ultra Beat here. All right, so this is a really simple bass that I added. It's a very simple score. Let's see what it sounds like without sidechain compression. Kind of boring. I'm a fan of whatever I chose for the bass itself. In itself, I think it's fine, but kind of a boring bass. Let's see what it sounds like with some compression. So instantly you can hear a little bit more of a pump throughout the track itself. This is the feel that a lot of us like to talk about when you're just dancing, and it's kind of like a really nice groove to it. So just want to show how this is made. And for any of you, regardless if you're beginner, intermediate, this should be a really nice step-by-step way of getting your sidechain compression in. So step one is to take whatever you want to trigger the sidechain compression. In this case, and in most cases, it will be the kick drum. So let me rename that kick. So in this case, you take the kick drum, and the first thing you're going to do is create a send. Now, a send basically takes the audio signal and sends it to another channel. So in this case, let's say that I didn't have that. What I would do, let's just create a new one, is click the empty box there and then send it to a bus. In this situation, we'll make it bus 1. Sorry. Okay. So after that, what you do is you take up the volume of the bus. Otherwise, you're going to have no signal going over to that bus. So let's go ahead and play. Okay, great. You should see both the channel from the original audio source, and you should also see the bus being played right over here. It's a little hot, so I'm going to turn that down. Okay. Make sure that the output on the bus is set to no output, so that way, it doesn't potentially create more noise than you need. So the second thing you're going to do is take whatever signal you want to create sidechain compression. In this case, we're going to use this base that I've created with Sylinth really quickly. So what you do, and I'll just kind of show you the breakdown of what I had set up for sidechain compression, and then we're going to deconstruct this and then recreate it really quickly. But this is just a compressor. A compressor is a really nice way of taming your audio signals and getting them to sound where they need to be. So these are some of the elements of the compressor that we're going to go over briefly. So in this case, let's turn on that signal. So in this case, we've set a ratio of 3:2. We have a threshold, which is at negative 33 dB. And we'll get to knee and makeup if we need to, but we have attack and release set fairly low. So let's go ahead and start from the top, and let's create a nice sidechain compressor. So all you do, whatever DAW you're using, is just go in and, create a compressor. The next thing you're going to do is make sure that you set a sidechain. And so the sidechain basically says, I'm going to listen to whatever signal that you tell me to. In this case, remember, we sent that kick drum to bus 1. So the sidechain is going to be listening to bus 1. I like to have my ratio set to around 4:1. Basically, this is just a big testing game, so use whatever you want, but maybe start with 4:1 and then kind of mess with your ratios after that. The next thing you want to do is get your threshold set to a low enough level to where it will pick up on the signal from the kick drum. In this case, let's just mess around here and get a good sound. Okay, so as you can see, there was a little bit more pump coming from this end and that end right there. So you can see the threshold actually kicking in. So if you compare that to right here, where the threshold set to the highest possible amount, then you're gonna have no sidechain compression kicking in. This works for any sort of compression. So get it down to the level to where you really want that pump and you want it to kick in. Another thing, I am not a fan of clipping, so make sure you take your output gain to where it's not clipping so much. You want it hot, but you don't want it red. Okay, so threshold, like I said, is when you're telling the compressor to kick in at a certain dB level, so whatever volume you want it to kick in. If you're not sure what the heck I'm talking about, just mess with it for 5 minutes and you'll get a better sense of what threshold can do. Attack basically says once the signal crosses a certain threshold, or once the volume gets up to a certain level, I'll simplify a little bit, how quickly do I want this compression to kick in? So if you want it to kick in right away, then you set it to 0 milliseconds. And if you want it to kick in a little bit slower, you set it to 200. Now, with a lot of these dance beats, we're trying to create a pumping feel to it. And generally, I tell people to keep the attack fairly low. So maybe at 10 milliseconds to make sure it's kind of, it's kicking in a little bit faster. Release is the opposite of attack. So a release basically says after the compressor is kicked in, how long do I want it to last before not being kicked in, essentially. Sorry if I butchered that. I'm just trying to make this really simple to understand. So generally keep your release low as well if you do want kind of a pump feel to it. So let's kind of mess around with that. Yeah, 10. And I want a little bit more of a drive to it, so maybe I'll take the ratio up a little. want it to sound a little bit louder. So I'm going to kick this up. That is sidechain compression in a nutshell. For you beginners or intermediate people like me, it is just a lot of messing around with it just over and over and over again, and just pretty much tweedling it till you finally get it to sound the way you want it to. But that is it in a nutshell. Just mess around with the sound until you get it pretty much where you like it to sound. And for those of you, I'm trying to think of a few other things that kind of helped me when I was creating it. A few mistakes are choosing maybe a bass that doesn't respond very well to sidechain compression. I remember I chose a bass that was set like really low. The volume level really didn't pick up on it, so the source of the sound does matter. Another mistake I made was not setting that bus um, signal from the kick drum high enough. So make sure you have enough volume coming from your kick drum to send over to whatever the compressor is going to be picking up on. And another mistake I made was adding sidechain compression to everything. Don't overdo it. It is something that you should use quite frequently, I think, for a lot of this music. But don't add it to every single compressor that you have for all of your audio tracks. This is just a simple example of something you can use. All right, hope you found it to be useful. This is my first YouTube video ever for something like this, so a lot of improvement to be made. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what could be better, and I'll look forward to hearing from you.